Whether it's gender equality, environmental protection, education, community upliftment, or any other social ill that we experience, there is really constant crisis that it feels like we're in. It does feel like we're always in like a crisis of some sort of the other. And that's true because there are so many of these social injustices that exist within our communities. And because of that, there are so many people who find themselves emotionally invested in fighting these injustices. And speaking up and showing up isn't an easy thing at all, especially because the reason why these injustices exist is because they're entrenched in our communities and they're entrenched in how people think. So standing out and saying, hey, this is not right is not something that is easy to take on, and it can be quite exhausting. So what happens when the weight of always showing up online or in real life becomes too much? Well, let's speak a little bit more about really the strain and the weight of being an activist, the strain and weight of speaking up, and the loneliness that activism might have on the activists themselves. We're unpacking this conversation with Mpho Tjope, who's an author, speaker, and founder and managing director of Albinism Advocacy for Access, as well as advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who is the director of Wise for Africa. Thank you both for joining us. Mpho, I'll start with you this morning. Let's speak a little bit more about the type of activism you do as the founder of Albinism Advocacy and Access.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, the work we do is we ensure that kids go back to school because there's a challenge of bullying and discrimination with persons with albinism, and we support mothers of children with albinism, accepting and encouraging them to actually be part of. They have a group where it's mothers encouraging other mothers because they've been through that space. We go to schools, create awareness. We also intervene where at universities to ensure that children with or students with albinism really go through, because there was and there continues to be a high number of dropouts, and so that's what we do actually.
Well, Mpho, for the most part, when we speak about activism, we speak about the act, right? The activism itself and what is being stood for. But we hardly ever speak about the person behind the activism. There's so many people who are out there living with albinism, and even though they encounter all the social ills that you've mentioned right now, not all of them become advocates, even though they see that there's a need for advocacy. What is it in you, Mpho, that says, I have to do something?
I think it's from experience. When you experience injustice also yourself, because I grew up as one out of 7 kids, the only one with albinism and the only one in the community with albinism. So that and facing injustices and facing discrimination and all that, and even the myths associated with albinism had created, slowly it was creating, an activist in me, to a point where we incorporate even other disabilities in the work that we do. Yeah.
Mhm. All
So I
right.
think
Yeah.
what created it was more of seeing what is happening, also what happened to you happening to others, and continuing to happen,
Mhm.
and you're like, no, you have to stand up.
Okay, let's bring in Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, Director of Wise for Africa. Brenda, tell us what you do with Wise for Africa.
So what you do, WISE is an advocacy organization advocating for substantive gender equality and equity, and showing the intersection between discrimination of women in our, broadness and diversity. So it's work that straddles, sexual harassment in the workplace, gendered violence, discrimination at the workplace, bullying, cyberbullying, and we challenge the status quo, and we look at the power structures, because the power structures are the ones that have made it impossible for women to advance in many ways. We put barriers for women's advancement. Violence is one of those. your class, your status is one of those. So, but we've got laws that are supposed to advance women's equality and equity. However, those laws are sometimes used against women's progression. You will not move or be promoted if you are not doing a social favor to a colleague or to your supervisor or to your boss. And so those are kind of things that we fight and we advocate for change, so that then we can live free of violence and bullying and intimidation and harassment.
Advocate Brenda, I'm listening to you and Mpho speaking, and I hear two powerful individuals, very confident in how you are asserting the issues that you are addressing, and there's confidence in yourselves, but also you seem very like strong people who are standing for something. Brenda, do you ever take it that people just look at you and say, she's a strong woman? She is in a space where she can handle it all, and everything that she handles, she always solves the problems herself, and then people forget to take care of you.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I think it's because you're driven by passion. People sometimes abuse that because they know that you are not going to say no, right? I think for me is I've set the boundaries for myself. So I don't do anything before 9 o'clock. So you can't demand of my time before 9 o'clock. And I no matter how urgent it is, I'm not going to attend to the issue until such time that I have taken care of myself before 9 o'clock, right? And then boundaries that after a certain time in the evening, I don't take emergency calls, because once you open up all of that, people think that they can demand of your time at any given time. So if you don't set the boundaries, people are going to always assume that because you are passionate about the work and they see the results and they know that you will always go out and fight, they will abuse that. And I've experienced that many times, but I had to set boundaries so that I don't encourage that happening and to my detriment, my health detriment. But I also have a regime on how I debrief myself and what do I do to have a downtime, right? My downtime is walking. My downtime is doing Pilates so that I am, I'm energized physically, and those times no one are sacrosanct to me. No one can interfere with all of that.
Mpho, is it lonely to do advocacy work? Because usually the reason why we can identify an advocate is because these people stand out in a crowd of many of people who don't actually stand up for something. Do you find that it is lonely to be an advocate?
It is, particularly if you are, you are fighting for the rights at the same time you are in that same group. I have albinism, so I'm still within that. I'm still also experiencing those challenges that the very same people I'm fighting for are experiencing. It is lonely. However, you need to have strong people that you can bounce back to and always share when you are sort of burdened, share with them, and they can be able to sort of uplift you also. So it's not a lot of people, but you need to have one or two people that you can go to.
Well, let's take a break. I would love both of you to stay on the line. We're speaking to Mpho Tjope, who's the author, speaker, and founder and managing director of Albinism Advocacy for Access, as well as advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who is the director of Wise for Africa, finding out about who is there for the advocates.
África. Conhece o Ntivani?
Claro que sou eu.
Ntivani é o amante da música de corpo e alma.
Eu amo música africana.
Ele aprecia todos os tipos de melodias e passa os seus dias a ouvir a Channel Africa. Adivinha só, a Channel Africa quer ajudar o Ntivani e os amantes da música em todo o lado a descobrir ainda mais música incrível. Por isso, a Channel Africa está a convocar artistas africanos a submeterem as suas músicas. Músicos, lembrem-se de nos dar todas as informações relevantes no music @channelafrica.co.za. As submissões são a vossa oportunidade de ser ouvidos, mas não garantem inclusão na lista. Todas as submissões serão cuidadosamente analisadas para verificar se cumprem os requisitos da nossa estação. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
Hey, it's our becoming feature. We are loving this feature. Every week we have this conversation on how we can be better Africans. This is a different take on our becoming feature because we're looking at those who are usually standing up on our behalf. Maybe they are the leaders in their communities or when it comes to a particular issue and they're taking care of so many people's matters. However, who takes the community organizer and says, you know what, are you okay? Pushes them on the side. I can see that today you're not yourself. Can we assist you? Can we help you in today's meeting? Because we can see that you're not in your best situation. Go home and rest a little bit. We'll try do this thing ourselves today, and then we'll get back and give you a feedback. We hardly do that because we rely so many times on these people. We're chatting to community leaders today. Mpho Tjope, author, speaker, founder, and managing director of Albinism Advocacy for Access. We also have Brenda, Madumise-Pajibo, who's an advocate and director of Wise for Africa. Advocate Brenda, as leaders in communities, most of the time you are the place to go to. You're the shoulder to cry on. But most importantly, sometimes we forget that you also need a shoulder to cry on. Advocate Brenda, where do you go to find that moment of relief? As much as your work is important, you are also important to yourself.
Not true. I think I have a good support system. I've got a partner who is an activist himself in his own right, so we lean on each other. I've got my children who understand the work that needs to be done and appreciate why it has to be done, but they keep me sane. And I've got a coterie of friends who now and again they will reach out and just find out how I'm doing. But also there are people who we have assisted who, I've had people drop me a meal as a token of appreciation.
That's wonderful.
You'll have someone calling after you have held them 3 months later to say, I just was thinking of you. Those are the kinds of things that keep you and propel you to continue to do the work. So you do find goodness in all of these things. You don't walk this path alone. So you have to find things that will make you sane and ensure that you continue to do the work. And there are good angels out there, really, most of the time, that will hold your hand when you least expect it, actually.
And Paul, for the rest of us, the kind of work that we do, we find the reward in money, right? We go to work and then we get paid. That is the reward of our work. And we're very grateful about that. But for, passion-driven work like advocacy and raising awareness, there usually isn't any monetary reward that is associated with it. So where is the reward of this work?
I think for me, the rewards comes from when you see that child who the teachers were bullying, or the teachers and the students or the learners were bullying, going to school and passing at the end of the year. When you see that student that you helped get funding to actually who graduates and they invite you to those things, I think what is important for me is seeing the direct impact that one does for others, although it comes at a cost, because sometimes you might, I have a 7-year-old daughter who wants school fees, so you can't just say I'm a great whatever. You can't do that. You need to pay that. So those are the challenges that one would encounter, but the difference that one makes is a reward on its own.
You said something very powerful earlier on, Mpho, around the fact that you are advocating for others in the albinism space, but you yourself also have the same challenge of fighting for your own cause, for your own life as well. And there's a tension in that, isn't there? Because many a times, as a leader in the space, it would mean that you will have to stand for others, and others would want you to pioneer in leading the way. And no one is advocating for you. Or do you, in your albinism community, have a strong sense that, you know what, we're all in this together, and also you have people advocating for you?
Yeah, it's I mean, I at times do assist even outside South Africa. But we are a unit. And you might find that we are in a different spaces. You know, some people would fight for education. Some people would fight for even the fact that, you know, as a person with albinism, because of the myths that are associated with it, they would not hire you. So you won't get employed because they think you are a curse. So so there are challenges that people are facing throughout, and you would be included in those spaces as an advocate. Yeah, so you have people who are fighting. The fight that others are doing also makes it easier for you to also fight.
You know, as we wrap things up, Mpho, how do you find ways to take care of yourself? Do you take time off sometimes when it comes to community work? Do you feel that you need to just maybe take that off time so you can be good to yourself, maybe spend more time with your family? How do you create that balance?
I think for me, it's on its own. The fact that you are helping others and they come to you, it's also a reward. But most importantly, family, and also, you know, things like music means a lot, because then you are able to
I love that.
like sort of yeah,
Sure.
and also, yeah, that's the things that we do. And also friends, family, friends, and music, and taking time off. Yeah.
Nice.
And for you, Advocate Brenda, have you ever thought of giving up? And in those moments, if they do happen, you know, how do you remotivate yourself to continue the work?
No, many times there are days where I wake up and say, I'm not doing this anymore, right? And then you get an inquiry that forces you to snap out of your despondency and get into action. So yeah, I mean, this work does that to you sometimes, where you're thinking, we are not making any headway, we are not making the changes that we like to see, and sometimes you feel like, no, it's not worth it, and then you get revived by some case or matter that is just makes you jump and want to tackle this issue again. So you go through those ebbs and flows, and I think it's normal. But it's a question of staying inspired and motivated. It's a natural feeling that you will get despondent sometimes, but the work is rewarding because you see the results at the end.
All right, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but thank you for joining us, and keep championing the great causes that you do on a daily basis. Thank you to Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who is a director of Wise for Africa. Thanks as well to Mpho Tjope, author, speaker, founder, and managing director of Albinism Advocacy for Access. Thank you both for your time.